Next up, House Bill 298, a bill to amend and reenact several sections of the Code of Virginia relating to coal tax credits. The bill passed the House February 19th, passed the Senate with a substitute on the 2nd of March.
Gentleman Scott, Mr. Kilgore.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I ask that we accept the Senate amendment. The Senate amendments put it in the same with the same language that was sent to the governor. So I hope we will accept the Senate amendments.
Gentleman from Charlottesville, Mr. Toscano.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
I state it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry to ask this question again, but it's come up in the context of this bill, and it really relates to the requirements of people to abstain on a bill. Would it be a correct understanding that one reason why people should abstain on a bill is if they have a personal interest in the form of owning stock in a company or utility that might benefit from a credit such as this?
I guess that could be a reason. I think the law provides that if you own less than a certain percentage, I think 5% or something of the company, you don't have to abstain. But I think it's a personal decision that everyone needs to make.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to speak to the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, there is no doubt that Southwest Virginia is hurting. And the folks on the other side of the aisle who have pushed so strongly and advocated so fervently for the people who they represent are doing what they need to be doing. And we need to do more to help out. The question is whether this is the way to do it. And I would submit to you that if you take a look at these tax credits in context, you might ask a serious question if they're the most efficient way of using taxpayer dollars to help people who really need that help. Now, if you were a business and as an executive of that business, you invested millions and millions of dollars into your plant and equipment to grow your business. And 20 years down the road, you found out that not only were you producing 67% less than when you started making this major investment, but your employment had also dropped precipitously since you had made that investment. What would you say? Would you continue to pour money into your company? Or would you say, there's got to be a different way? What's happened with these credits has been a good idea at the start, but a good idea that now has run its course, and it's time to take a different tack. And it was a good idea that has now cost Virginia taxpayers over the last 2 decades $630 million, or in 2015 dollars, over $730 million. That's a lot of change. A couple weeks ago, we got very upset because there was a business that we tried to help create in Virginia where we apparently lost $1 million. We have $630 million over that period of time. So what's happened in the coal fields? Tonnage has dropped precipitously, 67% in the last couple of decades. Employment, from over 11,000 people working to 2,850 people working. The cost per job, $675 per job when these were enacted. Now it's over $9,000 per job. Is that a good return on the taxpayer dollars? And that's what we should be doing here, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the body. We are the stewards, the custodians of the taxpayer dollars. Back when in the mid-90s, there was a study about the economic impact of coal tax credits on Southwest Virginia. In 1996, this is what they concluded. The credits should not be seen as a long-term cure to a problem. The credits only provide an opportunity for the region to invest in itself and enhance opportunities for economic diversification. That is 1996. That's 20 years ago. There was a study in 2011 that JLARC did. This is our favorite study commission. And they said in 2011 that the tax credits had outlived their usefulness. That's pretty good documentation about the problem here. The long-term economic solution is diversification, and we're not doing that with these tax credits. Now, you might say, oh, yeah, there's a war on coal. Okay, there is a war on coal. But most of the artillery being fired in that war is coming from fracking and natural gas, and the fact that the Chinese are not buying met coal, which comes out of Virginia coal mines, the way they once were. It's the market. And we know what Mr. Market says, don't we? Mr. Market says, follow what the market says. And the market here says, don't invest in this tax credit. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we can do a lot to help Southwest Virginia. But we have to go back to all our constituents, and we have to justify how we continue to spend more and more of their hard-earned taxpayer dollars on a program that doesn't bring the results that people have expected it to. Mr. Speaker, I hope that you reject the substitute.
Gentleman Scott, Mr. Kilgore.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House, speak to the amendments.
Gentleman has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I would say briefly to this matter that, you know, if this was happening in Northern Virginia, in Tidewater, or other parts of the state, there would be all kinds of folks up there just doing whatever they could to make sure that they saved these jobs. These jobs are $90,000 a year jobs, ladies and gentlemen, and to say that they do not have an effect on the Commonwealth, just ask our friends in Roanoke area about the railroad. Ask our friends in Newport News about how the decline in the shipping has, how they've seen a decline in the shipping of the coal that has gone down. So, you know, it does have an effect all across the Commonwealth. And then we got all the indirect jobs that we have that you see, you know, in Wise County, for example, stores are closing, people are moving just because of coal. And we are trying to diversify, but it's hard to raise families on $15 to $20 an hour when you're used to making a lot more than that. And I hear you, and I hear the minority leader, but I ask for your vote. I ask for your help for Southwest Virginia, and I ask that you adopt these amendments. Thank you.
Shall the Senate amendments be agreed to? Clerk will close the roll.
Ayes 70, noes 24.
Ayes 70, noes 24. The Senate amendments are agreed to.